Surah Asr, we're told, Wal Asr, inal insani lafi hosr, lazina amanu wa amalu salahati, wa tawasa bil haqq, wa tawasa bis sabr. By time, and time in this case, Asr is a word that means many different levels of time, eras of time, the waning afternoon. It is essentially our existence in time. 2 years ago, our dear brother Ali Alawi gave a talk called Recovering the Transcendent. I recommend it to you. It's on the Baraka website. Brilliant talk. I'm going to begin tonight by taking a few ideas from his talk. Recovering the Transcendent. We, in this world of time, are always in loss. It's a losing game. Time takes away everything that it gives, and this is the nature of reality. But of course, the teaching is, the revelation says, accept certain people. I'm going to take a step back and say, if we look at the many ways haqq is talked about in the Quran, one of the primary meanings of it is that Allah has sent down the haqq, has sent down the book, the revelation, with haqq. So the most fundamental level here is that we human beings who, without revelation, without prophets, could be lost in this world of time, could be lost in the demands and desires and contradictions of our own egos. This would be a very natural state. It takes something like a message from the source of infinite intelligence itself, from that loving, merciful source, to wake us up to the truth, to haqq. Yes, I mean, we're taught, or it's revealed, that we have within us an innately pure nature. And yet, do we know that? Do we, if in some rare moments maybe we knew that as a child, but human beings without a reminder of the truth, a reminder of the haqq, we would not even know, we might not know, we probably would not know that we have the capacity within ourselves to know the truth. So this is the extraordinary thing. The revelation, which gives the truth, says, yes, you have the capacity to know the truth, and we're telling you this. And we're telling you, in this world of time, you are lost. The hope is somewhere else. The hope is in recovering the transcendent. The hope is in knowing the haqq. And what's more, it gives us a sense of how this might be possible. In this very short surah, it says, except those وَتَوَصَّى بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَصَّى بِالصَّبْرِ. Those who, and here Ali Alawi offered us a very interesting alternate translation, because usually the common translation is those who counsel each other toward the truth, and who counsel or urge each other or enjoin each other to patience, to sabr. Now, these two These two beautiful, and didn't you say these are the two nouns of the 99 names? We might add nur to that, by the way. But these two nouns of the 99 names, sabr and haq, are mentioned in Surah Asr. وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ. Now, tawassa, yes, to counsel each other, to advise each other, but there's also an element of willing in this. Those who, in the word, when we say enjoin the truth with each other, it's also to will the truth. But Ali said, he brought out another side of it, which is a theme that Imam Faisal has been, well, everybody's been touching on it, namely that it would seem that we are being invited to enjoin each other toward the truth. But another meaning of it is, or to enjoin each other with the truth or by the truth, but another meaning of it is it's about the agency again, and it's about who is actually doing it at this point. That we can be willed by the truth, and that we can be willed toward sabr, toward patience. Now, the significance of sabr is that there is no sabr, there is no patience in the world of time. You're not going to find patience in the world of time because it's passing and everybody's uptight about it. You know, you find patience outside the world, the true patience you find outside of time. Now, how will you get there? How will you ever get outside of time? Well, this is what it's telling us. Sabr is to be in that state, beyond time, beyond conditions, bil haq, in that extraordinary world of the reality, in the real world, not in the world of time. The world of time is only partially real. All levels of existence reflect the haq. All levels of existence reflect and symbolize the absolute reality, but some more than others. And to step outside of time, to be in some sense outside of time, where you can watch yourself, where you can be patient, is to be willed into sabr, and is to be willed into haq, and it is also to be people, the al-ihaq, the people of truth, the muhakkikun, the people who have verified the haq in themselves, who have come to the truth, who have performed tahqiq, is that the word? Realization and verification. We've verified the reality through our fitra, through our direct experience, through stepping outside of time, by stepping into the eternal present, the eternal reality that is within our hearts. And in that state, there is no loss. There is no world of loss as there is in the world of time. And this is not something for only for some awliya, some rare 1 in a million human beings who are so transformed by God's grace that they're almost another species. No, this is for us. Otherwise, we wouldn't be enjoined to do this. It wouldn't be such an important truth. Now, recovering the transcendent. That's what all these years of Baraka have been about. Each year, our first year, the theme was finding our balance. The balance between the inner world and the outer world. The year that Ali Alawi was here, I think the subject was spiritual intelligence. Spiritual intelligence meaning awakening those capacities for knowing within ourselves that can know the haq, that can know the real, that can know ourselves outside of time, and know ourselves beyond our conditioned false self, our personality. Spiritual intelligence is a big, big subject. those of you who love any of these our great teachers, especially Mevlana Jalaluddin Rumi, you can look at all of his work as the knowledge of awakening spiritual perception. Fundamentally, what he's doing, what he's guiding us toward, is a way of seeing the world, a way of seeing reality. So spiritual intelligence is something yet to be fully recognized as a discipline of knowledge. And yet it's inherent, it's intrinsic to all of the great Sufis. And all the great Sufis, greater and lesser Sufis, are all in one way or another concerned with being, with ontology, with understanding what is real being, what is real, what is there that is beyond these limited appearances and this world of passing time, not just because they have some kind of peculiar wish to study some abstract metaphysical concept, but because this is where the answer lies. This is where our well-being is found. This is where peace and truth and positivity is found. And the alternative is to be distracted by untruth or deluded by untruth, worse yet. And the thing about being deluded by untruth, the thing about consciously or unconsciously serving the dark side, is that there's no good in it. Ultimately, there's no pleasure in it. That those who follow that direction in selfishness, thinking that they're going to acquire more for themselves or that they're going to attain pleasure or happiness, even at the expense of others, in the end find nothing. Because this is the nature of shaitan, this is the nature of the Iblisian force in reality. You know from our story in the Quran that Iblis tempted Adam and Eve, and he made promises. And they fell for it, and the promises were untrue. They got nothing for it. So those who follow that path get nothing and worse. So the only way for our well-being, the well-being of every human being, is ultimately, and sooner rather than later, to awaken, I'll say awaken, to the transcendent reality, which is here now. It's not in some other place. It's not in some high mystical state. It's in our everyday life. Because all levels of being interpenetrate one another. And this is Tawheed. This is the unity of all levels of being. And if we're stuck only in the basement, and we don't know the other beautiful floors of this mansion, which is your humanness, then you're just in that dark, uncomfortable basement. And as Abdul Hai sometimes talks about, sometimes you get the smell of burning plastic coming up, some foul odors coming from the basement. You'd better take a look. You better see what's going on down there before it's too late. Probably you're maybe down there yourself if you're stuck at that level. So for all of us human beings, and this is the central theme of Revelation, we need Haqq. Not Haqq as some abstract absolute truth, because the Haqq is not abstract. The Haqq is the most intimately personal reality. Yes, it has an utterly transcendent, beyond the beyond aspect. It's incomparable. One reason why it's incomparable is because actually there's nothing outside of it to compare it with. It's all that exists. But it's not abstract. We don't believe in an abstract God. We don't worship an abstract truth. We are in relationship to a hyper-personal reality. That hyper-personal reality which gives you and me our experience of being subjective beings and ultimately beings who can be loved, can experience love, and can love in return. And who can know that part of ourselves which is beyond space and time. And until we know this, we have not lived. Until we know this, we are only partial beings. And until we've lived this, we are not yet fully human. We are animals with personalities, distracted by illusory desires, contradictory motives, and so forth. Now, just to keep, there's something else I wanted to share. I don't know if this is going to seem irrelevant or out of left field, but I want to read you a few words that I heard just recently from a man who I think is one of the most significant moral voices in our time. His name is Chris Hedges. Anybody ever hear of Chris Hedges? Yes. I'm going to bring a bit of the worldly into this because I don't want us ever to forget this aspect, because our recovery of the transcendent demands of us too that we work for the hak, because the lie, the untruth, the unfettered egoism is destroying spiritual possibilities for us and for humanity, as well as, by the way, destroying the planet. Actually, it was said here today, destroying the planet may not be such a big deal, but destroying our souls is a very big deal. Chris Hedges says, unfettered, unregulated capitalism knows no limits and in essence commodifies everything. Human beings become commodities. The natural world becomes a commodity that you exploit until exhaustion or collapse. We are creating a system of neo-feudalism, a world of masters and serfs, when nothing, including human life, has intrinsic value, but only a monetary value. That society cannibalizes itself until it dies, and that's where we're headed, unless we create systems of resistance outside the formal structures of power. Now, I don't know if you agree with this as a political statement, and I don't mean it as a political statement. Outside the formal structures of power, for us, let's include things like prayer, like remembrance, like recovering the transcendent. Because we seem to be in such a situation, I mean, I don't know how it looks to you, but it looks to me like human egoism is running so rampant that it's hard to see how people are going to disengage from these processes that are so destructive to ourselves and to the planet. It's hard to see how that's going to happen or what it's going to take to reverse this, but it's going to take a fundamental reversal in human egoism and a fundamental movement towards unselfishness, sacrifice, unconditional love, self-discipline, wisdom, and all of these things that we will only get. Yes, we'll get it to some extent through education, through human reason, through practical means. But we have most of those practical means. We need something more. We need the help of God. We need contact with the infinite. We need help from our source that will then give us the will and the wisdom to act appropriately. Now, I weigh that with another truth, which I believe equally, and that is that everything is perfect. Everything is in perfection. Everything is in divine perfection. We're not complaining about anything out there. We may look critically in here, but we're not complaining in the sense that we expect it to be other than it is right now, because what it is right now is exactly the circumstances that we need to take the next step in our realization. And all of this is the theater of Hak. All of this is the words of God. All of this is showing the divine attributes in their beauty, or what happens when we distort, misuse, and corrupt those attributes through our own will. And there's a lesson in that. For instance, to give a simple example, the archetype of Pharaoh is the archetype of the human being who usurps the place of God. Pharaoh is taking on a divine attribute and claiming it for himself. That's the problem. Now, the Quran and all revelations contains good and bad. It contains the ugly and the beautiful, just as this world does. This world has its ugliness and it has its beauty. It has its horrible characters, it's doing evil, and it has its saints and its peacemakers. These are all the words of God. This is all the theater of Hak. This is all the book of truth. And how are we to relate to this? What will our relationship be? Some of the great Sufi teachers, whom I love and trust, refuse negativity, refuse blame, refuse judgment for any of this. That does not mean that they see everything as equal. That doesn't mean that they see illness the same as health, or insanity, or shall we say, cruelty the same as kindness. But they refuse judgment and the blame in the sense of that they're not blaming this or that human being. They're not making an enemy of this or that human being. They're not assuming the all-knowingness of God and saying, I can judge you, I can discern actions that are destructive, actions that are cruel, actions that are wasteful, and recognize that we have work to do. We have a jihad, and the jihad may be communication, education, the manifestation of love, but it is not about making enemies. It is not about judging and blaming. And this, you could say, is the adab before Hak, in the face of Hak. Adab, if you don't know the word, it means it's a profound and beautiful Sufi practice or Mohammedan practice that is coming from our beloved Prophet, peace be upon him. We have an adab with each other, a courtesy we extend, and Sufis, and especially Mevlevis, all the Sufi orders, work on this. It is one of the primary practices to live and express respect and humility and care and attention. And there's an adab for everything, but there's also an adab for Hak. And the adab in the face of this reality is not to judge, not to blame individuals, but to see clearly what is going on. to see what is happening and to have no illusions about it. Now, so the basic message of Hak in its simplicity is that the Hak, the divine reality, speaks to us, and it reminds us of some simple and fundamental things. These simple and fundamental things include some basic facts like this is a spiritual reality, not just a material reality. The nature of reality is spiritual, not just physical. That life is eternal, and that there is accountability for every soul and the choices that it makes. And there is also guidance and mercy and blessing, that the nature of reality is fundamentally Rahman Rahim. We may have good reason to doubt that. And probably the more you doubt it, the less you see it. Though all of us doubt it from time to time. It's only human. But faith is our gradual certainty that we live in a meaningful, ordered reality. And this is another one of the themes of Hak in the Quran, namely that Allah says we create bil Hak. We create everything. We manifest everything with truth and according to the truth. In other words, we manifest it in a meaningful, orderly, proportioned way. Everything is designed. Nothing is random, accidental. Even what is accidental, even the chaos, has its own order, intrinsic and underlying it. So we have the basic message of there is a God, there is goodness, you have a soul, better take care of it. We create with order and proportion. And now I want to share with you some words of Mevlana. That captures, I think, something quite remarkable. He says, if all the divine wisdom, and you could substitute Hak there, be made known to his servant, that's you, the servant, in the benefits of that act, would be left without power to perform it. And the infinite wisdom of God will destroy his understanding. He will not even be able to engage in that act. In other words, if you could know all the implications of the next significant step you were going to take, the next significant action you were to make, if God were suddenly to reveal with you all the meaning behind it, all the outcomes, you would become paralyzed. You couldn't bear to know it. And maybe this is why we're protected from knowing the Hak, as all of us have been freely admitting, haven't we? We don't know what we're talking about when it comes to Hak. We only know a little bit. If we know anything, maybe a little bit. And that because we've been taught. And we have to be taught. Even the Prophet, peace be upon him, was told, do you know this? Told in the Quran, you did not know what Iman was. The Prophet is told that. Until we taught you. So this is the fundamental relationship between reality and ourselves. It's an educative relationship. Our Rabb is giving us tarbiyah, is giving us instruction. And this is every day of our lives, every second of our lives. This is the nature of the process we're in the theater of Hak, where we have to remember to be positive, to keep up our spirits in the face of appearances. So Mevlana is saying, you wouldn't even be able to act if you know all the outcomes of your actions. Therefore, the high God makes a small portion of that infinite wisdom a toggle in your nose and leads you towards that act. For if he gave him no information about those benefits, if he gave you no, I'm going to transform it into the second person. If he gave you no information about those benefits, you would not move at all. Inasmuch as the motive arises from advantages to yourselves or others. So we're being toggled, we're being led by the forelock. And this is why we act. While, on the other hand, if he were to pour down upon you the wisdom of that act, you would be unable to move. Just as a camel will not go unless there be a toggle in its nose, and if the toggle be too big, he will likewise lay down. And then Mevlana, all of Mevlana, of course, is a commentary on the Quran, essentially. And he quotes here, "And there is nothing, but we have the storehouses thereof." In other words, everything in existence is from the storehouses of a higher ontological plane, which we were referring to earlier. And there is nothing, but we have the storehouses thereof, and we do not send it down except in a certain measure, bilhaq, in a measured, proportionate way. Everything in existence, moment by moment, is being revealed to us in a proportionate way. In perfection, though we may doubt it, especially if we're in that Chris Hedges mentality, God bless him. But that's a scary place, a scary way to see the world. But maybe it has its truth. And yet there's another truth, which is that everything is being given to humanity proportionately. Everything is being revealed in an intentional, meaningful, proportionate way. And we send it down only in a certain measure. Without water, earth does not become a brick. Clay does not become a brick without water. Nor does it become a brick when there is too much water. And the heaven, he raised it and set up the scales, another ayat. He gives everything by the scale, not without calculation and balance, except to those who have been transmuted from the creaturely state of existence. Everything is given in order and proportion to this creation, except, and this is where it gets interesting, except for those whose creaturely state has been transmuted by love into love. And here, all the laws fly out the window. Finiteness flies out the window. Tit for tat flies out the window, because Allah's response, the response of love, is the response of the infinite, and it is beyond measure. This is the miraculous mercy. This is the nature of reality that breaks the laws, where give a drop and receive an ocean full of pearls. And he bestows on whom he pleases without calculation. Ayat. Whoever has not tasted does not know. Someone asked, "What is love?" I answered, "You will know when you become we." What is love? You will know when you become we. Love is uncalculated affection. For that reason, it has been said to be in reality the attribute of God, and unreal in relationship to the servant. And he ends this, the ayat that says, he loves them and they love him. And Mevlana says, he loves them is all of it. Whereas they love him. It's all his love. It's all his love reflected to and from us. And the perhaps, the real truth and nature of Hak is just this infinite response of love, which is still our greatest and perhaps only hope. Ya Hak. All right, thank you very much.